Back at it again, and we got a good old back and forth here with Ben Shapiro and I think it's Anna Kasparian? Somebody help me out with that pronunciation. But let's dive in.
There's some very interesting surveys out there on trust. Gallup did a survey. There's a drop across the board in trust in all institutions except law enforcement, which is very interesting. Congress, sorry for my friends there, is the lowest. Media is down there almost as low as Congress. Those that rank the highest were small business and the military. So this low media rank, is that fair, or is that being manufactured as part of a culture war?
It's fair. I mean, it's entirely fair. I mean, I think that one of the things that we've seen for both good and bad, the fragmentation of media is a result of systemic distrust in the media, and that's existed for a very long time. I mean, that's nothing new. And I think that it's completely fair for people to look at the media. I know there are people on the left who think that the media is too right-wing, right? Obviously, we on the right think that the media is far too left-wing. But I think that sort of distrust in media sources is very often justified. I think that we're requiring...
I mean, I definitely think the media is too far left. And I'll give one example just right off the top of my head. Justice Kavanaugh. There was a lunatic outside of his house that was ready to take his life. That should have been front page news, plastered all over every news station, CNN, MSNBC. That should have been rolling. Justice almost lost his life, possibly. There's been threats against his children. The schools that his children go to, I heard, was exposed. The schools. After everything that's going on, the schools have been exposed. But that's not all over the news. But I guarantee you, if it was a different justice, that was if that was Justice what's the black lady's name? Forgive me, I can't think of her name. The black lady that couldn't tell you what a woman was. If it was her life, if there was somebody outside of her home, oh man, I guarantee you, it'd be all over CNN, all over NBC, all over the place. But that's just one example. You know, that's just off the top of the head. And I'm sure, you guys can come up with many, many, many more examples, just like that. So I think it's definitely too far left for sure. But you guys let me know how you feel.
Distrust in media sources is very often justified. I think that we're requiring more of people than we used to in the past, because once people have realized that there's an inherently political angle to how people cover the news, now we're asking them, if you want a full rounded diet, you actually have to choose it yourself, right? You have to cultivate yourself to watch the Young Turks and then watch my show and decide who you agree with, and where there's sort of a common locus of fact. That's the fact, and everything else is the opinion. That's asking a lot of viewers, where we didn't used to ask very much of viewers at all, right? You just turn on the evening news and buy whatever Walter Cronkite is saying, whether it's true or not. I think most Americans waking up to that is a good thing. The systemic lack of trust in media has some bad downstream effects sometimes, because when there are no gatekeepers, there are no gatekeepers. So I like the fact that there are no gatekeepers, because I think the gatekeepers were very often biased, but without gatekeepers, sometimes bad stuff gets through.
Yeah, I mean, I think that right now we're experiencing people existing in various filter bubbles. So if you are, for instance, consuming most of your news online, if you like a particular brand of programming, if you, let's say, lean more conservative and you're watching mostly conservative news, algorithms offer up more and more conservative news. And so when you get if you have preconceived notions and all of a sudden you're hearing or reading something that challenges those preconceived notions, you're gonna have a negative reaction to it. And you see that playing out across the board. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. I mean, I have family members who are constantly consuming news online.
That's true, and it's unfortunate. We should welcome opposing ideas and opinions. Even if we completely disagree with them, there may be some truth in the opposing idea or statement that we can take from and learn from it. But today, a lot of folks like to live in echo chambers. They like to say something and hear it repeated back to them. And if it's not repeated back to them, whoever was supposed to repeat it back to them, they now hate. I've seen that all over the place. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. It's crazy. And it's why, like I said, I welcome opposing ideas. I may completely disagree with it, but I'll listen, because I understand. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong in my opinion. That's a possibility. But I feel like that's lost on society today. A lot of people feel like there's no possible way that they could be wrong on anything. And I think that creates a problem. But how do you guys feel in the comment section? Talk to me.
My mom's a good example, right? She's you'd be surprised she's my mom because she's on Facebook. She clicked on a link to, let's say, the Daily Wire, perfect example. Well, Facebook is going to be offering up more Daily Wire type content. And then all of a sudden, when she's watching the Young Turks, she'll be like, well, you know, I read on Facebook or I read on the Daily Wire, whatever, that X, Y, and Z happened and you're wrong, right? That conversation doesn't actually happen that often. But I'm giving you an example.
I was hopeful there for a second.
Right? And so look.
Nah, that conversation happens. She's had that conversation with her mom more times than she would like to admit. For sure. For sure. She admitted that it's happened, but I'm pretty sure it's happened more often than she would like to admit.
There are all sorts of issues with the media, right? I mean, the media for the longest time completely ignored the very real frustrations that workers have been feeling in this country. I mean, the Federal Reserve released data indicating that nearly half of Americans can't even afford a $400 emergency. At the same time, you tune into CNN, CNBC, MSNBC. I mean, it doesn't matter, across the board. And they're like, the economy is doing great. You know, we're seeing record growth.
She ain't lying about that. Oh, man. Actually, we just checked out a video about that yesterday, a day or two ago, whatever. There was an interview that a lady was doing at a gas station, and she was like, hey, Joe Biden said, you know, the economy's doing great. You know, everyone's got extra money. Everyone's feeling comfortable. Do you guys agree? And everybody at the gas station was like, HE double hockey sticks, no. And it was hilarious because I'm like, yo, like you can't lie to folks when they're seeing their bank account being drained. Like that just doesn't even make sense. Oh man, I started with, you know, X dollars in savings and now I have $150 in my bank account. You can't lie to somebody and say, oh yeah, everything's good. No, everything's not good. People are buying their gas on a credit card. That ain't good because they're not putting that on their credit card because they get extra points. They're putting that on their credit card out of necessity because they don't have any cash. So she's right about that. News be out here lying.
Growth, and what they're specifically talking about is the stock market. But the stock market is disconnected from the reality that the majority of workers are experiencing. So I think that
the stock
type
market
of
is even
stuff
down right now.
Leads to people feeling, you know, distrustful toward the press. At the same time, they exist in these filter bubbles and have their preconceived notions. It's hard to challenge that. So there's a lot of different things happening at the same time. I don't blame people for not being so trusting of the media. One other thing that I'll note is that the incentives are always in the wrong place. The kind of stories that I want to talk about on the Young Turks and do talk about on the Young Turks get no attention. They don't do well in terms of the number of views. I want to talk about...
Why are they called the Young Turks? I think we've only checked out one of their clips where they said some wild stuff. But why are they called the Young Turks? Let me know in the comment section if you know.
International news. I want to talk about what's happening in Brazil. I want to talk about what's happening in Ecuador. It'll get like maybe 40,000 views at most. You know what gets a lot of views? I don't know, Anna Kasparian destroys this person, or here's the latest cat fight. Like, I hate it. It's garbage. It's garbage. Because it leads to people not trusting the press, but at the same time, the profits are there. The money is there. And I think you see that play out across the board, whether you're talking about cable news or online media.
Yeah, and at the dinner table, we're having an interesting conversation. It's clearly a generational thing. My generation grew up watching Walter Cronkite and Huntley and Brinkley and all these folks. And one of the things that I saw in your bio was that you got interested in this field because of Barbara Walters. So what happens now to the Barbara Walters? I mean, where does news reporting go? Will the nightly news be a thing of the past? And are we simply going to continue to retreat to those mediums that demonstrate that we know everything already? Where's this going to go now?
Well, let me just note, I loved Barbara Walters on ABC's 2020. So I remember as a kid, you know, like getting super excited after TGIF was over because ABC's 2020 would be on. And I was like fascinated by the fact that this woman was getting paid to talk to these incredibly interesting people from around the world. And I was just fascinated by the conversations. That's how I got interested in journalism and the media. But I just feel like the type of conversations that she had, or just news about world events, they don't seem to attract the kind of attention that they used to. And it might be because of an oversaturated market. It might be because conflict tends to sell. Manufactured conflicts tend to sell. But
That is true.
I wish we can get back to a place where journalism still really existed, where there was like ethical standards that were, that reporters abided by, anchors abided by. I wish there was a clear distinction between opinion and actual hard news journalism. This is what I talk about with my journalism students whenever I have the time to teach. I always tell them, I'm like, look, there's a difference between what I do, which is analysis, opinion, and what you should be doing as an investigative journalist, for instance. Going out there and actually gathering the news, talking to both sides, not equating both sides and acting as if, you're completely neutral, but making sure that you gather the facts on the ground and report them as they are. It's really hard to find that these days. There's still great journalism taking place. I wouldn't be able to do my analysis or my job without that great journalism taking place. But these are the people who are oftentimes.
I like how she tried to skirt herself into the truth-telling, realm. There is great journalism taking place, truth tellers out there who reported how it is, and I wouldn't be able to do my job without them. She thought she was slick. I caught that, Did y'all catch that? Let me know in the comment section if y'all caught that. How she tried to slip herself into
There's
that.
still great journalism taking place. I wouldn't be able to do my analysis or my job without that great journalism taking place. But these are the people who are oftentimes not paid well, ignored, and don't get any of the benefits that someone might in the media if you engage in the conflict nonsense.
Can we go back, Ben, and separate the fact-based from the opinion now, or is it going to be conflated for the foreseeable future?
I think the truth is that was a relatively modern construct. If you go back to the foundations of the Republic, the people who were reporting were also doing opinion, and that was true all the way through the beginning of the 20th century. It was really only with Walter Lippmann in the 1920s that you start talking about objective standards in journalism. And there's a difference between an objective standard that you apply to how a story is reported and being an objective reporter, meaning you have no politics at all. And I think, frankly, if you want to reinstall some sort of institutional trust, it would be good for reporters to say, here's who I voted for, and then here are also the facts that I am reporting on, because otherwise it ends up being a gotcha, right? I see how you're reporting that. I see what you're doing. I know what you really think about this story. So that's a major issue. I think the other big issue, obviously, I mentioned gatekeepers before. I'm very wary of the reinstallation of institutional gatekeepers, because if you want to talk about market incentives, the big players have all the incentives to ensure that they are the ones who maintain their access via the gates. And this is one of my great fears with some sites that we've been very successful with, like Facebook, is that reestablishing the idea that there are quote-unquote trusted news sources, and those all coincidentally are legacy media sources, means that everybody who's not a legacy media source, somebody who started up a company in the last 10 years, right, we opened our doors in 2015, we're not legacy media. And so we don't have that legacy. So now you're shutting out all the players who are actually entering the market.
So surprisingly, I agreed with some of the stuff Anna was saying. Now, from the few clips that I've seen of her on Young Turks, I believe that show is called, and like I said, I think we checked out one clip, but they say some wild stuff on there. From the few clips that I've seen, maybe those were all just some wild clips that I've seen, and for the most part, it's better stuff. But her saying that she's a truth teller, it's like Biden saying everybody has more savings. That's flat out a lie. Ben Shapiro, obviously, his opinion doesn't change. Since I started checking out Ben, it's all been the same. Nothing has ever been any different from Ben. He's a straight shooter. Like him, love him, or hate him, he's gonna give it to you straight. And me personally, I respect that kind of person. I do. I honestly do. I don't like to beat around the bush. Let me soften it up for the consumers. No, give it to me straight. No chaser. That's how I like it. Do you guys like it that way? But in terms of, the media being biased and no one really trusting the news, that is 100% true. I feel like the media almost makes you have to work to get to the truth. And I think that is what turns off a lot of people. The news should just be the news. It shouldn't be your opinions. And I think that's where the news started going wrong. And I want to say I tweeted this out, but I said, the news isn't the news anymore. It's people's opinions. We don't come to you for your opinion. We come to you for what happened yesterday, what happened last night while I was asleep, yada, yada, yada. Tell me the facts about the situation. Don't enter your opinion. I don't give a rat's tail about your opinion. Give me the news or get out of my face, you know? But it's more about, you know, personalities and opinions these days than it is about actual news. And I think that's why a lot of people got turned off from the news. A lot of people just said, you know what, forget it. I'm not watching you anymore. I see what you're doing. You're telling me the grass is purple when I can see that it's green because that's your opinion on the situation. Like, no, I don't care about your opinion. Tell me the facts. But they don't do that anymore. It's all opinions. It's all, you know, it's all ego and opinions. And it's just crazy. But you would think that some of these corporations some of these news outlets would have gone bankrupt. You know, we saw CNN Plus. I forgot how much it was that they spent on the CNN Plus situation. Off the top of my head, I want to say it was like $300 million or something. It was some crazy number. Completely flopped. And you would think like situations like that would let news organizations know people aren't tuning into your type of content. On the ratings thing that we saw the other day that I brought up in a video, I don't even remember which video that was. I make so many videos now, so I couldn't even link it at the top because I don't remember which video that was in. But in that video, CNN, all the news stations were ranked, and CNN wasn't even top 20. I don't believe. I think you didn't see them until like early 20s. Fox held like the top 17 or 18 spots. That should tell you something. Nobody's watching your program, so you should change up what you're doing. I feel like this common sense, but as several of you guys have said, common sense is no longer common, and apparently these news organizations are getting paid by somebody else, and their ratings truly don't matter. But I don't know. Y'all let me know what you thought about this one in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, and of course, please hit that subscribe button before you go. Peace and love. I'm out.